We're not worrying about now people flying off to foreign prisons and then the Trump administration arguing there's no jurisdiction because they're in a foreign country. The way the rest of the votes went is that they sent it back to the Fifth, but with the injunction in place. The court is like, well, we solved the emergency problem, the imminent problem.
Trump's master deportation plan just hit a brick wall, but it's not the wall he wanted to build. The Supreme Court grounded his ambitions, but Kavanaugh had his own shocking twist to add. Let's unravel this mess. When Trump uses an antiquated, centuries-old legislation to expedite deportations, what do you get? A great deal of drama and a significant Supreme Court legal roadblock. The Alien Enemies Act is so archaic that it could have been drafted with a feather quill, but Trump believed it was the ideal way to get around the standard procedure and begin deporting citizens. It was a brave move, but let's face it, not everyone agreed.
Justice Brett Kavanaugh's got some explaining to do. I think I figured out what he's trying to say in his concurrence along with the 7-2 decision. Brett Kavanaugh says we should address the substantive issues of the Alien Enemies Act now. We should treat this as a writ of certiorari.
The Alien Enemies Act was first passed in 1798, which is when George Washington had not yet moved into the White House. Originally, it was intended to allow the government to hold or expel foreigners in times of conflict. This thing hasn't had much action in modern decades, but Trump decided it was time for a comeback. His scheme? Forget due process, bypass the legal obstacles, and deport them more quickly than a one-way ticket to nowhere. Theoretically, he believed he had such authority under the law. The Supreme Court actually had different opinions. Red flags were quickly raised by legal experts.
The planes are grounded until, and then the majority went in one direction, and Brett Kavanaugh sort of went in another. The underlying legal questions, though, he doesn't think it was right to send it back to the Fifth Circuit to complete briefing.
Trump's use of this statute appeared to be as dubious as bringing a horse and buggy into a Formula One race, and the Constitution sort of frowns on avoiding due process. Imagine the mayhem. The proposal screamed legal calamity in addition to sounding out of date. Immigration laws are based on a vast array of rules, safeguards, and procedures. Trump believed he could avoid all of that, but be warned, you can't get past legal challenges like you're playing Super Mario. As expected, the Supreme Court intervened quickly. They said, "Hang on, buddy, not so fast," in a 7-2 ruling. By a majority decision, they overturned Trump's strategy, stopping deportations while they examined whether his strategy was lawful. Imagine applying the brakes to a train that is out of control. Trump's requested deportation flights are currently on hold, at least until the courts thoroughly examine whether his application of this archaic law is still valid. The irony? Trump's strategy backfired. It turns out that even a court with a conservative slant isn't all that happy about throwing out due process. It's a temporary reprieve while matters are resolved, according to a legal professor. The worst part is that although the majority stopped Trump's rapid deportation plan, one of his own nominees, Brett Kavanaugh, had a completely opposite opinion. Wondering.
The majority, of which he is a part 7-2, ultimately said, send it back to the Fifth Circuit, Court of Appeals. These Venezuelan detainees or any detainees may be lawfully removed under the Alien Enemies Act before they are in fact removed.
Let's listen to what Kavanaugh has to say and why Trump might give him his trademark frown. What occurs if Trump's own choice for the Supreme Court deviates from the plan? Here comes Brett Kavanaugh, the justice Trump most likely thought would unquestionably support him. However, Kavanaugh threw a stunning curveball instead of fully supporting Trump's plan to expedite deportations under the centuries-old Alien Enemies Act. Although he did not support the majority's decision to apply the brakes, he also did not give Trump exactly what he desired. Bewildered? Let's dissect it.
Get the subject matter, get the substance of the issue on the Alien Enemies Act up to us promptly. Wheels down until they can get it. They don't want to be stampeded anymore by Donald Trump's conduct.
Here's the deal. Kavanaugh disagreed with the majority of Supreme Court justices who agreed to temporarily halt Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act and return the matter to a lower court for further consideration. He concurred, saying that they should tear off the Band-Aid rather than drag things out. He desired that the Supreme Court resolve the legal issues right away, rather than relegating the case to the lower echelons of the legal system. His contention? The court was able to have oral arguments, order briefings, and settle the case more quickly than anyone had anticipated. It is safe to say that Trump would not have expected a justice he appointed to tilt the court in his favor to take this particular stance.
On one hand, they say, we're not making a ruling substantively on the Alien Enemies Act, but they are stopping the planes from flying. Kavanaugh says, I understand and agree with the court's decision to grant a temporary injunction. So 7-2, temporary injunction.
The twist is that Kavanaugh wasn't attempting to belittle Trump. His position was more about his opinion of the court's role than it was about loyalty or disobedience. Kavanaugh is among the justices who firmly believe that the Supreme Court should function as an enhanced legal referee. He feels that rather than allowing matters to reverberate throughout lower courts indefinitely, the court should intervene promptly to prevent contradictory decisions or delays. In short, Kavanaugh wants the court to function like the grocery store's express lane, quick and effective.
The way the rest of the votes went is that they sent it back to the Fifth, but with the injunction in place. The court is like, well, we solved the emergency problem, the imminent problem.
With little time for meandering through the aisles. However, Kavanaugh's insistence on a speedy conclusion wasn't particularly well received. He lacked the votes necessary to win over the other justices. To avoid appearing to support Trump's divisive deportation policies, the majority of them favored a slower, more circumspect approach. Therefore, the rest of the court put the brakes on Trump's agenda as Kavanaugh advocated for speed, making his hand-picked justice appear somewhat alone.
So Donald Trump can't use the Alien Enemies Act to deport people anywhere out of the country. We're not worrying about now people flying off to foreign prisons and then the Trump administration arguing there's no jurisdiction because they're in a foreign country.
Kavanaugh's surprising action begs the larger question of how much power Trump actually has over the justices he appointed. To put it mildly, the response may cause him some embarrassment. Trump's obsession with allegiance must be hurt by the fact that even his hand-picked justices aren't certain to follow his strategy. Brett Kavanaugh's surprising position, advocating for expediency rather than unqualified support, serves as a reminder that the Supreme Court is more than just a vehicle for Trump's policies. Kavanaugh's perspective focused more on legal efficiency than on supporting Trump, even if the majority put a halt to deportations. Even though this case caught us off surprise, it demonstrates the value of judicial independence. Trump's deportation plans are still in limbo, but keep an eye on things since this court battle is far from done.